To order. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we're on the unceded traditional territory of the Quetzal Nation, and that in this room there are different views, different ways of expression, different emotional intensities, and different roads that lead to conclusions. May we combine clarity of mind with kindness of heart, and may we be impartial without bending to strong personalities. May we sacrifice self-interest for the good of the whole, and may we do our work with love and clarity of vision for the benefit of those that we represent. And with that, I will call tonight's meeting to order. Are there any late items, Ms. McWilliam? No? No. Okay, excellent. So we'll move to approval of agenda as circulated. Is there a mover and a seconder? Any discussion? All those in favor? And we'll move to adoption of minutes from the October 27th meeting. Is there a mover and a seconder for those minutes? Any discussion? All those in favor? And we'll move to the report of the Chief Administrative Officer. Over to you, Mr. DeVerti.
Thank you, Mayor Staples. The Eagle Heights Reservoir replacement construction is now underway, and the retaining wall is almost complete. The project is anticipated to last about 5 months. The Trans-Canada Highway Boulevard's beautification, that project, we have received feedback from Ministry of Transportation and Transit and the Parks Department, so we're making some revisions to the design on that before we move forward. The Coronation Avenue bike lanes, the project completion is currently anticipated to be later this month. The Canada Avenue and Government Street, the Cowichan traffic lights, the new GPS clocks have been installed, so the two intersections should always now stay in sync. Unfortunately, some loops now have failed at the intersections and will need to be repaired before further testing of the new timings that will be able to utilize those loops. But we are now back to the timing that's been in place for a number of years. So we shouldn't see any major traffic delays with that currently set up. The automated solid waste collection, recently Public Works staff had to dispose, unfortunately, of a load of organics as regular garbage, as the load had been contaminated with plastic bags of yard waste. So that cost the city and the city's taxpayers extra disposal fees unnecessarily. So warning letters and or fines will be issued to some homeowners. We do have cameras on the truck to check each load. So we want everyone to please ensure that only acceptable organics materials are placed in the green bins. Any questions can be directed to Public Works at 246-5321 during regular hours, or by email at publicworks@duncan.ca. The new updated EV charging stations at the Coronation Mall are now set up. Those are flow meters as opposed to the previous models. And so they're now up and running. The 482 and 490 Festerwood Street, the application review letter for that 11-unit townhouse development has been provided to the applicant. And the 2026 budget meetings were scheduled for November 10th, operating a meeting earlier today, which was finishing off the meetings from the November 3rd meeting. And there's an upcoming capital budget meeting on November 17th at 10 a.m. and everyone's welcome to attend. The 2025 Citizens Survey, the survey results are being tallied and will be presented at the November 24th council meeting. And lastly, I just wanted to note that the Duncan digital totem tours are now up and running. The city's excited to announce the launch of the new totem tours hosted by On This Spot. This interactive totem experience celebrates the community's cultural heritage and artistry. The tour can be accessed by scanning the QR codes on each of the sign bases for each of the totems, or by downloading the On This Spot app. Sincere thank you to our city planner, Larissa Barry Thibodeau, whose hard work and dedication helped bring this project to life. She was just a huge workhorse through this whole project, did a lot of chasing of all of us to keep things moving. And a big thank you as well to Cowichan Tribes and to the On This Spot software, and to the Chamber of Commerce for getting the grant in the first place. So a lot of work went into this, and I think you'll all be very pleased with the end product. So go take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. DeVertai? Councillor Newington and then Councillor Mike.
Can we go back to the solid waste issue? And it did come up earlier on this evening that a lot of people do not understand that there's to be no more bags or anything in the compost and garden bin.
Yeah,
And I just wonder if we can, sorry, getting my thoughts together. I just wonder if we can get it in a blast out on Facebook and Instagram and all of that, as well as the various letters that we send out. The apartment buildings, I know this doesn't affect, but the apartment buildings and condos in the city, they have not taken the initiative to tell people that they can no longer use those bags. Okay?
yeah, on the apartment buildings and condo developments, they're obviously their own animals in that lots of them still don't provide organics collection, just garbage and recycling. And of course, recycling shouldn't include the plastic bags themselves. But what we were recently experienced was these are folks that have put their yard waste into a big black plastic bag and then stuff that into their yard waste bin, the big green bin. And of course, if we get too much of that we can't tip that without receiving fines for mixing in plastic with the organics. So we're gonna have to keep a closer eye on that going forward. And yes, we will certainly do out a bit of a push and obviously educate those residents that have put that out on their curb. We just can't have that continue, unfortunately. And that's a separate issue from the kitchen catchers, which as well shouldn't be put into the organics any longer. There are other options, which the city has some information on the website about what other options. Like I know at home we've switched to the plastic that have more of a sort of wax liner on them. They work quite well. They're a little bit more expensive, but they do still work. Or you can still use just newspaper or whatever in the bottom of it. So there are alternatives. They're not as easy as the old kitchen catchers and that sort of thing, but they're still quite viable. But yeah, definitely no more plastic bags in with the yard waste. So thanks.
Councillor McKinley.
Coronation Avenue. So I have 3 questions or observations. When they come across the highway on their bikes, they can't get up onto the sidewalk or the bike lane because it's so narrow there. So they're going down the road, which is kind of narrow as it is now. That's the first one. Are we any closer to looking at keeping Coronation Hill open to traffic? Is my second one. And the third one is the first signpost as you turn onto Ypres. There's a sign there that says no trucks over 12 meters long. So the truck's already turned, and then he sees this sign and stops, and then backs up because he's a short little semi. I was kind of shocked that I'd never seen the sign there before, but it's now right on the corner, but it's actually on Ypres, not on Coronation Street, to give them the heads up before.
Yeah, we're still looking at that sort of transition between the east side of Coronation on the other side of the highway and how they transition onto the bike lane. I do agree that there needs to be some tweak there to make it a little easier to get up onto the sidewalk, or at least make it clearer. So we've talked about that from a line painting or a painting perspective on the sidewalk. I haven't had an update. I do anticipate we will move forward with like leaving Coronation Hill open to westbound traffic. I anticipate that. It's not a done deal at this point, but we're still waiting for the review from the engineers as to how to set up the sort of cycling pieces. And regarding the sign location, we'll have to look at whether there's a better location for that sign. Thank you.
Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Mayor. A question on the Trans-Canada Highway Boulevard Beautification Program. Which exact boulevards are those? Between what and what? I know I should know, but...
That's okay. You don't have to know everything. I don't always. The boulevards we're speaking about are predominantly from a trunk road north to the city's boundary, so it's about a block and a half. There may include, but I don't think so, south of Trunk Road. But we're talking about both sides. We're talking about removing some of the grass and what we put in as traditional plantings, and sort of upping the landscaping more to be in line, but not precisely the same, but more to be in line with what you see in front of the Pharmacy and the Shell station, more in the landscaping side as opposed to just strips of grass. There will still be some grass, but the other big component is to remove some of the old driveway letdowns, so there'll be additional landscaping opportunities. So we'll have some additional trees, some landscape, but there was quite a bit of challenges with respect to the underground infrastructure there, so that required different modifications. And I haven't seen what the feedback was from Ministry of Transportation just yet, but it sounds like we're able to make those amendments and then move forward. So hopefully in the spring we'll be ready to do that work.
How much longer do you think before the Cowichan Way traffic signals? I know you said that the new hardware is installed, correct? The new, or software, whatever it is. But there's other things that have gone amiss now? Is that?
Yeah, if I may, the loop's not currently functioning. They haven't really, the existing traffic lights have never really utilized them anyway, so there's no consequence to how it operates right now. It will operate as it has to its set up for the last 13, 14 years. What we're trying to get to is a point where with the new setup with the lights that we're actually pay attention to the loop. So that if there's only a car or two on Cowichan Way, it's not going to go for 25 seconds like it currently does and has had for a decade. But we're trying to get it so it's more paying attention to what the actual traffic is. So it just had a few hurdles through the process.
One more. You spoke to it, Mr. DeVerti, but my hearing is kind of shot. Festibert Street, 482 and 490, I think you just spoke about that, did you? Where are we with that project, please? I missed your comments.
No, that's okay. So that project's a development permit application, which was to facilitate an 11-unit townhouse project. I believe that's on the east side of Festibert. So it's a couple of lots there that are being redeveloped. It went through the advisory design panel and received some feedback on that, and then the application was finished review by staff, and the staff have now sent an application review letter, so that gives them the feedback from staff and from the advisory design panel on recommended changes to their layouts. And then they'll consider that, and they'll either make those changes or give us feedback on why they think they can't make certain recommended changes, and then we'll move forward.
Anyone else? No? Okay. Thank you very much for your report and answering everyone's questions. So would someone please move that council receive the November 10th, 2025 report of the CAO for information only? And I see a seconder. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. And now we will move over to Mr. Young for a development variance permit application. Over to you, Mr. Young.
Thank you, Mayor Staples. This is a development variance permit application for 320 Campbell Street. The purpose of the development variance permit is it's twofold. One is to increase the maximum fence in the front and exterior side yards of the subject property from 1.2 meters to 1.75 meters. And that's approximately 4 feet to 5 feet 9 inches. And secondly, to reduce the visibility site triangle dimensions at the intersection, and I have a diagram to explain what that means later in the presentation. And the purpose is to permit the fence to remain as constructed. I do want to note that this is a reconsideration request, so it's different than the normal process that council's likely seen in the past for variance applications. So council, through its delegation of authority by law, delegated decisions on this type of variance to staff. Staff considered the application in September and refused to issue the variance for the reasons noted in the staff report. And in accordance with the delegation of authority bylaw, the applicants have requested that council reconsider staff's decision, so that's why it's on tonight's agenda. The subject property is zoned low-density residential, along with all of the other properties in that neighborhood. It fronts Campbell Street and Marchmont Road. The image on the right there is the air photo, so you can see the property is occupied by a single-family dwelling. Next few slides are site photos of the fence. So this is looking from the intersection back towards the subject property. So you can see the fence in question. It's a solid wood fence. This is a shot along Campbell Street, looking back towards the fence in the house. So this section of fence, the maximum height of this section of fence should have been 1.2 meters or 4 feet. And instead, it ranges from 1.7 to 1.75 meters. Again, that's just on Campbell Street, looking back towards the fence in the house. This is the corner section of the fence. So when staff discovered that this fence was under construction, my understanding is the staff spoke with the property owners at the time, advised that there was this visibility or sight triangle requirement. So fences at the corner, at the intersection of two intersecting roads, needs to be lower in order to maintain visibility at that intersection. And so the owners lowered that section of fence. But as noted in the report, and again, I'll have a diagram on this, but they didn't quite go far enough on the Campbell Street side. So there's a section of the taller fence on Campbell Street that should have been a little bit lower. But for the most part, the applicants did their best to comply with that, the sightline requirements in the zoning bylaw. So yeah, this is a shot on Campbell Street. So that taller fence panel there, approximately half that panel should have also been lowered to comply with lowered to approximately 1 meter to comply with those sightline requirements. This is a shot from Marchmont Road, looking back towards the subject property. And a close-up view. So the non-conforming section along this street is on the right-hand side of that image. So that's another taller fence panel, which is limited to 4 feet. And it's approximately 5 feet 9 inches. Just for reference, this is a Google Street View of the previous fence that was installed on the subject property by the previous owners, which was compliant with the bylaw. There's the image from Marchmont Road. So it looks like the current owners kept the previous gate onto Marchmont Road. That's the only portion of the previous fence that was maintained. So this is a diagram of the subject property. The gray area is the house. The blue area is the rear portion of the property, the technical rear portion of the property, where the fence height would be limited to 2 meters or 6.5 feet. The yellow area constitutes either a front or exterior side yard, and the maximum fence height is 1.2 meters or 4 feet. That little red triangle in the corner is the 6 meter by 6 meter site triangle, where the maximum fence height would be 1 meter. And the image on the right is just an explanation of the variance related to the sight line. So the red area is the 6 by 6 meter site triangle that they needed to maintain. The blue area is what's actually been lowered. So again, they didn't quite go far enough on the Campbell Street side to lower that fence to meet the visibility requirements. Staff refused the application for 3 reasons. The first is that the increased fence height at the intersection presents a safety concern for motorists, pedestrians, and cyclists, primarily in relation to that site triangle, but also just in general terms, on those corner lots, lower fences are preferable to taller fences. Secondly, the increased fence height adjacent to the sidewalk and public realm reduces the overall visibility and natural surveillance by creating concealed areas and limiting potential positive interaction between the private and public realms. And lastly, taller fences in front and exterior side yards detract from the aesthetic and functional qualities of the streetscape, particularly when the cumulative impacts are considered. So I fully acknowledge that that's a subjective determination, that taller fences adjacent to sidewalks along a streetscape would be undesirable. But generally speaking, if you look at that neighborhood and in the vicinity of the subject property, property owners have complied with those maximum fence height provisions, with a few exceptions. Obviously, throughout the city, there are going to be exceptions. The 1.2 meter maximum height for front yards is a pretty standard requirement across municipalities. And from a staff perspective, what we're looking at is not just this property, but what is the cumulative impact of a number of properties along a streetscape, you know, who might also wish to have taller fences. So in our analysis, staff were unable to support the variance application. There's three options available to council. One is to confirm staff's decision to deny issuance of the development variance permit, in which case the applicant would need to lower the fence to comply with the regulations, or that council amend staff's decision to deny issuance of the development variance permit. So an example of that might be there's two components. One is the overall maximum height, and one is the visibility site triangle. So council could approve one but not the other. And the third option is that council set aside staff's decision to deny issuance of the variance, and the council instead issue the development variance permit for the subject property to regularize the height of a fence in the front and exterior side yards of the subject property. So essentially allowing the fence to remain as is. I did want to note that in considering the variance application, staff did public notification to the neighborhood. We did receive a number of emails and letters in response to that, and those are in the staff report. It does appear that perhaps the neighbors misunderstood the intent. In reading those comments, my view is that there was a belief that the applicants intended to further increase the height of the fence, which is not the case. So just a caution when reading those comments, there perhaps was a misunderstanding there. And in fact, earlier today, I received an email from one of the authors of those emails indicating that, while she's still very opposed to increasing the height at the intersection for safety reasons, she's okay with the fence as it has been constructed now. So that's it for the presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions council has.
Are there questions from council at this time? Councillor Bruce, is that? So Councillor Bruce and then Councillor Dewing.
What would be the implications to other people and so on if they were to ask for this type of variance, if we were to say okay to that high fence in front on Campbell Street? It's 5'5" high, and it certainly looks high when one goes by it. And of course, then the last panel, or the applicants did not leave enough room for the sight line. How many feet would it have to cut back to legalize the sight line at the lower height, at the 2.1 or whatever it is?
Yeah, to Councillor Bruce, so there's two parts to that. One is, yeah, absolutely, sometimes there is an expectation that is created if council authorizes something that's not compliant with the bylaw. So, and we've heard a little bit of that. It's like, well, if, you know, if these owners get to increase their fence, well, I'd like to do something similar to that. But the reality is, any application for increasing fence height is subject to council approvals. That would come to first to staff, and then if that's appealed to council. So each one is going to be considered on a case-by-case basis, but it does sometimes create an expectation that if you've approved it for one property, you know, why wouldn't you approve it for another property under similar conditions? And then just to answer your question around the sightline triangle, it's approximately somewhere between 4 and 5 feet. That panel would need to be further reduced to comply with the sightline requirements.
So is there a compromise here? To me, if they took that one panel back and lowered it, would that comply with the site triangle? That's part A.
It would comply with if that one panel was lowered, approximately 5 feet over, lowered down to 1 meter, that would bring that portion of the fence into compliance with the sightline requirements.
And then, then the rest of that corner are already in compliance with the sightline, is that correct?
Yeah, the remainder of the lower portion of the fence is compliant, yes.
To me, this would be the solution, but I'm just one person. I mean, yeah.
However, there is a piece along Marchmont, which is 5 or 6 feet high there, yes, by the gate. That is non-compliant, is that correct?
Yeah, so to that point, yes, the remainder of the fence would still be non-compliant. So the remainder that's around 5 feet 9 inches, so the taller sections that you can see in this photo on the left-hand side there along Campbell Street and along Marchmont would still not be compliant. Those sections would need to be lowered to 4 feet approximately to be compliant.
I'm just going to go to Mr. DeRotai and then over to you, Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify or point out, because it wasn't perhaps abundantly clear with Kyle's presentation or the report itself, that so when we do these requests, it's when he says staff, it's myself included, and the recommendation for denial in this particular case. I also just wanted to, you know, this visual here is quite a good one, in that just to think about, as Mr. Young has mentioned, the public realm elsewhere and how that might be applied forward. So what's different about this particular property and why 6 or 5.5 feet might be okay versus carrying on down the rest of that street or across the street from the public realm's perspective of what you could have in future if you granted that, or future variances is a long corridor of a lot of very tall fences. So you have to think about what makes this particular site possibly different, or if it is, from future requests.
Councillor Duncan?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to clarify for me, it was discovered that the fence was already being erected. Wouldn't there have been a requirement to get the permit to start with?
Yeah, we don't do permits for the construction of fence, so we have regulations in our bylaw, and it's up to the owners to comply with those regulations. And then if we discover that something has happened that's not compliant, then we take enforcement action.
So I guess this is to the owners. Was this fence built by a fencing professional company? So wouldn't the company not know the rules?
Yeah, perhaps that's a better question for the applicants. My understanding is they are here and would like to give a presentation, so maybe that might be a question that could be better directed to them. But just generally speaking, we don't, yes, I think fencing contractors should know the rules, and if they're not sure, they should call the city. We're happy to answer those questions, and it's never an ideal scenario where someone goes ahead, doesn't ask the questions, or is aware and chooses not to comply. It puts the city and council in a very difficult position of having to, and perhaps expensive for the owners. If the variance is not approved, then it needs to, there's additional cost to bring it into compliance. So this is not the preferred scenario for sure.
I just have one more question. So just thinking about some of the conversation that's happened around the table so far, in terms of sight line specific, you said it would be 4.5 or 5 feet that would still have to be shaved down to that height, but that doesn't leave very many panels left at that height. If you were to take away 1.5, you're looking at like a very small portion of a fence that's actually that high once you're done all of that. And
It would still leave 6 full height panels. It's just that last panel on the right-hand side of the image, the taller panel that would need to be cut in half
Okay.
essentially to be
I
lowered.
was thinking it would have to be 2 of those panels at the end to make that if they're 4 feet long.
No, those
Okay.
panels are likely 8 feet, I would guess. Closer to
okay.
8 foot, to
Okay,
10-foot panels?
so just.
No,
be
the
one
length of the sections. Yeah, the standard length for a fence panel would be about 8 feet.
panel. Okay.
I'm guessing they're about 8 feet.
All right, thank you very much. And the applicants are here. Would you like to come up and give a presentation? And just please introduce yourselves when you come up to the mic. Just your last names are fine, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Hi, everyone. Good night. I wish that we were meeting under better circumstances. Oh, sorry. I would have never perceived that I'm standing before the council. I'll try to be quick in my presentation. I'm a bit nervous. So this is Moise Ryszewski-Jack. He's an environmentalist and financial advisor. Myself, I'm Kidonna Wilkes. I'm an engineer and educator. Just a quick overview of who we are and where we're from. We're from a little island in the Caribbean called St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So we migrated to Canada to start a new life. We've been involved in numerous research and environmental projects. We've worked with kids and adults, and we are astute environmentalists. So we're just seeking reconsideration to maintain the current fence that we have. Listening to Cal's presentation, I was unaware that the site visibility was not to the requirement because I took it in good faith that the contractor took out the necessary fences that were needed to be removed. So on May 6th, my mom received a card from Mike stating that the visibility at the intersections were not correct. So in this image, you can see that I messaged the fencing contractor to let them know that there was a problem with the corner. These are some of the current challenges that we're having. There has been constant littering, loitering of individuals, and we have received, unfortunately, public threats, which I would not like to go into detail. Persons were of the opinion that we wanted to increase the fence height at the visibility triangle, and not so kind words were said to us, which is okay. Without the fence at the front, we have absolutely no privacy nor security. It has been a challenge for myself and Moise. Now I find myself suffering from panic attacks and anxiety attacks because of just some of the comments that has been said to us. Reasons for reconsideration. I think there was a bit of miscommunication with the neighbors because some were of the opinion that we wanted to increase the fence height, security and privacy, quality of life. There has been an increased pathway for pedestrians. Before, there wasn't any pathway for pedestrians to walk. When we bought the home, we observed persons who were walking in the street. Consistency and fairness. So we have observed that there was one fence that had been constructed around the same time as our fence, and it basically is looking the same, and no concerns were brought up about that fence. What we're told, we have clarified that already. The actual request was to maintain the current fence that we have. This is just a pie chart showing what the feedback was. I think that was just a bit of miscommunication. Spoke a bit about this. Have been having threats, constant harassment. I have lost sleep, unfortunately. We have lost sleep, unfortunately, because it's a constant check-in to make sure that there is no one entering the property at the front. So this is just an image showing more pathway for pedestrians to walk instead of walking on the streets. Persons have commented that they do appreciate the additional walkway path. These are just some of the houses who are not in compliance. So this was one of the fences that has been constructed during the time that our fence was being done. So for me, it's not about saying that this person is doing it. For me, it's just more of peace of mind and safety. I'm somebody who's a law-abiding citizen. This is my first time standing explaining myself for something for not being compliant of. So just giving us the opportunity to feel safe and secure in our homes. Thank you. And these are just some photos. So this was previously how it was on that side. So there was no walkway. And this is just showing that persons are not going beyond the stop sign to go out for the intersection I've observed. So I think there are clear lines of visibility. There's just persons trespassing, animal filth. This is just a garden area where we have positive interactions with the community. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, and I just want to start by just thanking you for coming in, and I know it can take a lot to come here, and we're just grateful that you took the time to come and speak with us. And second, that you should never in any community have to deal with people being unkind or being racist, and I'm sorry that you've had to deal with that in your neighborhood and in our community, and we're constantly working to change that, and it comes out in ways and times that are just, I mean, it's always inappropriate, no matter what the circumstance. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, and thank you for, coming and speaking up about that too. So with that, I'm just going to turn to council to see if there are questions at this time. Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, I guess my question is the one I said before. Was it professionals that you hired to do it, and did they not indicate that it was being built contrary to the requirements already for the city?
So I did hire a local contractor who lived in Victoria and in the Cowichan Valley, but currently resided in Vancouver. When we had our initial conversation, we were of the opinion that the front yard that we thought was the backyard, we were of the opinion that it was the backyard and it wasn't the backyard. He said he wasn't aware of it. I can only take him for his word. I was only cognizant of that until the bylaw officer passed by to say that we weren't making the requirement.
Councillor Bruce?
Thank you. In front of your two front doors, when one is looking from Campbell Street directly at the very high fence, there's two openings there that lead to your front door. Councillor Newington and I came by this afternoon and had a look, so tried to know what we're talking about a little bit. But anyway, there's two openings there with a little concrete pathway in on both of them to those two doors. Are you planning on putting gates on those areas? I was concerned about your comment that there were people in your yard who were unwelcome.
So the intention was putting doors there, but because we incurred so much of a financial cost in paying the contractor for that period of time, we had to wait until a decision was being made. So yes, the intent is putting a door there so persons won't come directly to the front area. Yes, a gate.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council? Okay. Thank you again for your presentation.
Just to clarify, the contractor that we hired, he said he was in the business for over 20 years, so I took it on good faith that I'm hiring somebody who knew what they were about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you. So council will just deliberate this now. Thank you for your presentation. So I turn to council for questions for staff or discussion. Councillor McKinley.
A question for Kyle, I think, is the sight line, so if you would take half a panel, is that correct? A full panel off, or is it more for off of Campbell Street?
It's approximately 1.5 meters or 5 feet, so perhaps a little more than half a panel.
Okay, so if they remove the one panel and lowered it to the height of that would be sufficient instead of like, I don't know, fixing it so that it's only half a panel. You could, if they removed it's just one full panel or thereof.
Yeah, that would bring the fence into compliant with the sightline requirements, yes, to remove the whole panel.
Councillor Duncan?
And then just to clarify, there's another section of the fence that's supposed to be 1 meter, is that correct?
The section of the fence that is within that site triangle, the 6 meters by 6 meters in either direction, so 20 feet in either direction, needs to be 1 meter. The rest of the fence that you see in the images here, it needs to be 1.2 meters or 4 feet.
Kyle, is it possible for you to bring the picture up again, just so we know exactly what it is that you're speaking of? Sorry to put you through all this, but
And so just for clarification, from what I'm hearing around the table, the question is what would have to come down in order to be compliant with sight lines? That's correct, that's one thing. And then what's remaining? So those are the two distinct questions that I'm just hearing. Thank you.
sorry. The panel just passed the telephone pole. If that came down to the height of the other, it would be in compliance then. Is that correct? or sightline compliance?
That's correct. The fence would then be in compliance with the sightline requirements if that panel was removed, the one
Oh.
just on the other side of the telephone pole.
Okay. And part two of this is there's another panel to the right past the gate. Does that need to come down as well? No, the other way. In behind that hedge, there, that one. Does that need to come down as well or not? Well, he answered my question about the sight line. Now I'm asking about this panel. Is this panel okay to be there?
No, this panel this taller panel that you see in this image,
Yes,
as well as
that panel.
those panels and these panels are all over height. The rest of the panels are over height and would all need to be lowered to 4 feet in order to comply with the bylaw. If the maximum fence height in any yard adjacent to a public street in the city of Duncan is 4 feet.
Does that apply, I'm just curious, does that apply to just fences or does that apply to also hedges?
It applies to fences, but when it comes to sight lines, it applies to both fences and vegetation. So outside that site triangle, if you wanted more privacy, and that's often the solution that people go to, is planting a hedge, because there's no height limit. We can't control the height of a hedge outside of the site triangle.
Yeah, thank
yeah,
you, Peter. I
well,
was about to say that, very same thing.
Just,
Yes, but that's
okay,
off the
but-
point.
Yeah, fair enough. Arguably, they're not a structure in that sense, so that's generally why you wouldn't control the height of vegetation outside of a visibility issue.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions? Councillor McKinley, I got it right this time. It's only been 3.5 years.
So looking at the fence, you mentioned about the backyard and that. So the fence that goes down off of Marchmont goes down towards the house that is 5 feet or whatever it is there. Does it have to be lowered too? No, you asked the one on Marchmont. I'm talking about the one that goes down beside the house, the other side. Yeah. You don't, there's no picture of it. Yeah, that one. Does that have to go, the next door neighbor?
It does, yes. Yeah, the image, the fence panels behind that bush in this image, the taller fence panels would need to be lowered. Anything in the yellow area on this image, the maximum fence height is 1.2 meters or 4 feet.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bruce.
When I look at this, I feel badly for the applicants for sure, but still, Mr. Young, when I see it's a higher fence panel, is it not, on that yellow line just above the word road up to the blue? Is that a brand new higher piece as well?
It is, it doesn't go all the way to the house though. So there you can see it in that image. I wish I could have a cursor that I could point with, but does it work? Is that? Oh, this is, I don't know how to work this. So you can see it just goes, I think, just to the hedge there. It doesn't go all the way to the house, so it's just a shorter section of fence that does go back. But yeah, the maximum, I can't really scroll with this thing, but yeah, all sections of the higher sections of the fence are non-compliant.
I have no problem with the piece that goes between the two properties there, but myself, I think we have to, just going forward here on the city, I think we have to have the panels brought down to be compliant with our bylaws. I don't really see any other way, but anyway, that's my thought on it. I don't mind that chunk between the two properties. Yeah, over there to the right, yes. Yeah, I don't mind even that front panel, I guess, but the between the properties, that could stay high. But I know what that does not conform to our plan or city bylaws, but I would see that being left. But I sure don't like the idea of this thing along Campbell Street being that high.
Councillor Duncan, sorry, I didn't say that out loud.
Thanks. I lived in that area for about 10 years. There's definitely a lot of seniors in that area, and visibility, especially for the ones that are driving, is definitely a key factor. My concern here is that the company that was retained to build the fence should have checked the local bylaws. And now we're put in a position where we either say yes to you, and then anyone else in the neighborhood says they want to change their fence. We get into variances that really aren't required if the company had done their homework. So I have to say, I think that it has to be brought within the bylaws. And you'll probably have to go talk to the company about it.
Councillor McKinley.
I kind of disagree. I think if you took that first panel, the next panel that should be lowered, and leave the rest the way they are, my personal opinion, that's what I would support a compromise, like do that, fix that piece, and leave the rest the way it is. They've kind of moved the fence back. There's a bit of a path there that you can walk along that wasn't there before. So I could support just removing that one panel and go from there.
Yeah, I'm sitting with Councillor McKinley at this time. I recognize that, you know, what other councillors are expressing as well about bringing the whole fence to compliance. I think as long as all the sightlines are to compliance, and recognizing what Councillor McKinley just said too about the additional space for people to actually utilize, like walking in that area in a safer way. But also, we always at this table, I've been sitting here for really like 14 years now, and I can't tell you how many times we've had variances for all sorts of different things happen. And one of the hardest ones is when we have something come in that's already completed and already done, and we have to talk about undoing it and unwinding it. And I don't believe that this is going to spark, you know, people everywhere trying to build higher fences. And our job is oftentimes, when we look at things, to consider them case by case in some situations like this when they happen. It is not something that happens all the time. And every case has its own unique set of circumstances. And so, you know, if I could actually, I think, go forward in any way other than what Councillor McKinley is saying, I would like to give it time to come in, for the whole thing to come into compliance over a set amount of time, because I recognize also there's a huge financial output. Fences are ridiculously expensive, and to give you time also to deal with the contractor. But then there's another layer of, you know, because that walkway is opened up, it's being utilized more too. But we do have to have that relationship with the space that we're in when we're walking in our communities, both to create safety for everyone. So I don't know that there's a perfect solution to this one application, but I think that's where I would feel comfortable going. And I'm also you know, looking to council to see what council is looking to moving at this point in time. Because I don't feel like we're going to reach a consensus agreement around this table necessarily about this. And so I will look to council for motions at this time. Councillor McKinley.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we go with the one issuing of a variance permit with the removal of the last closest panel back to 4 feet on Campbell Street to the intersection.
And would that be essentially you're asking to ensure that the sight lines are in compliance? Yes. Okay, thank you. And there's a seconder for that motion. Is there further discussion on the motion that's on the floor? I'm going to look to Mr. Young, who's just had something. Did you have? Okay, I'm just going to turn to Councillor Duncan for a
Yeah,
second. and
I
then go
just
over
wanted
Mr.
to
Young.
clarify, we've heard sight lines, so at the corner, is it supposed to be 3 feet or not? 1 meter or not?
Yeah, that was gonna be my comment, just it's 1 meter is, yeah, not 1.2.
So to move the corner into the sight lines is what I'm hearing. Okay. Mr. Young, did you have something else you wanted to add at this time?
No, that was gonna be my comment, that I think I heard 1.2, but it's actually 1 meter in order to bring it into compliance.
Okay, so you're comfortable with that? Okay, excellent. So Councillor McKinley is comfortable with that adjustment to the motion. I'm just going to turn to Ms. McWilliam to make sure everything's being captured.
Thank you, Mayor Staples. I was just working backwards. It feels like a little bit of a double negative to me here. It's that council amends staff's decision to deny the issuance of the development variance permit number DVP 2025-02 for 320 Campbell Street by permitting the overall height requirement exemption from 1.4 meters to 1.75 meters, subject to achieving compliance with the site triangle requirement. I think that
That sounds like it captures what Ms. Councillor McKinley's intent was. Okay, so everyone knows the motion is clear. So with that, I will call the question on the motion. Or is there, yeah, there's already a first, sorry. I will call the question now on the motion. All those in favor? All those opposed? Councillor Bruce opposed, motion carries. Thank you. And we're going to take 5 minutes to stand up and stretch because it's been 55 minutes. And we need to stretch for every hour so that we don't get older faster than we need to. All right.
So if we don't take it, we don't want to take it down, we should leave it.
All right. Let's get back to business. So, where are we here? 6.2, Joint Duncan North Cowichan Meeting. Mr. DeVerti. It actually says Miss McWilliam, but
She said she's got sore throat.
Just a raspy voice. Do you want to speak to it? You're good, okay. This is an update on a report, just wrapping up a few previous topics that came forward at a joint meeting. So you've previously had an update when we came to you in September to suggest that it might be appropriate to postpone the joint meeting as there was a number of items in progress. We have since made some progress on each of those. The North End Gateway sign is one of them. At Council's direction, both of the mayors and the CAOs have discussed the potential location for the North End, so southbound Gateway sign. And it was agreed that there would be support to place it on the corner of the old Cowichan High School's field, right at the south corner there. So it's basically right on the border to, or boundary to the city of Duncan. And the school district has indicated that they would support leasing that property. So we could install the sign, subject to, of course, Ministry of Transportation and Transit approval, as well as North Cowichan approval for a sign permit. The other item is the Safer Community Plan, which was discussed earlier at a committee of the whole meeting. And then the final one was the Trans-Canada Highway Corridor Management Plan. There have been 2 meetings with Ministry of Transportation and Transit staff, as well as, of course, the meeting with Minister Farnworth at UBCM. And MOTT has indicated that they will be proceeding with the Corridor Management Plan refresh, and they will be funding it. So we now we have that assurance from them that that work will be carried out in the new year. So at this point, we're looking for approval from council to direct staff to apply for a sign permit from North Cowichan and from the Ministry of Transportation and Transit to locate the new gateway sign at the southeast corner of the old Cowichan High School field, which is immediately adjacent to 497 Island Highway or Trans-Canada Highway. And then the second recommendation is that council inform North Cowichan that the city does not have any proposed topics for the next joint City of Duncan North Cowichan meeting. However, it's my understanding that North Cowichan does likely have at least one topic they'd like to bring forward.
all right. So the motion is the council directs staff to apply for a sign permit from North Cowichan and the BC Ministry of Transportation and Transit to locate the new gateway sign at the southeast corner of the old Cowichan Secondary School field immediately adjacent to 497 Trans-Canada Highway. And that council inform North Cowichan that the City of Duncan has no proposed topics for the next joint City of Duncan and North Cowichan meeting agenda. Is there a mover and a seconder for that motion? Is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Bruce, go ahead.
When we say we have no council, that the city has no proposed topics for the next joint City of Duncan and North Cowichan meeting, we don't have anything to talk to them about as far as boundary or anything, and nothing? I mean, why do we say such a thing as that? That we have no topics? I'm not understanding that.
So no topics for the next meeting. That doesn't mean no topics ever, but I will go to Ms. McWilliam, who looks like she's ready to press her mic.
I was also just going to, through Mayor Staples to Councillor Bruce, I'm just going to let you know that the decision around which topics get included on the agenda is up to both mayors. So usually I think they have a brief discussion. So if there is any items to be brought forward after the fact or anything that is an emerging issue in between now and the council meeting, there's an opportunity there for the mayors to discuss putting an additional topic on the agenda. At this time, though, however, I haven't got anything that would require joint decision-making.
It's because we've worked so well together the last few months on looking through different topics and advocating together at UBCM and working through discussions that were on our agenda last time.
Regarding the sign, it's on the school property, so is the big tree still sitting there?
I think you're referring to the cottonwood tree, Councillor McKinley? Not the cottonwood? Yeah, it's like a cottonwood. There is a sort of a, looks to be an end-of-life cherry tree that would need to come down. And then we would be trying to make accommodations for a fire hydrant that's right there. So trying to locate it in a way that it's still visible without impacting the trees to the best of our ability. That would be decisions that would need to be made by North Cowichan, subject to their permitting processes.
Okay, so it won't actually be inside the fenced area. Could be out on the roadway.
Thank you, Councillor McKinley. We'll locate it as close to the roadway as we can, subject to those competing factors.
I just want to say a couple of things. One, I actually don't like this location, and I would prefer to keep the sign exactly where it is. I also know that this has been a discussion that's been ongoing for a long time now, and that, you know, we could, if council wants to, we could bring it up at a meeting with North Cowichan and re-litigate the issue of this sign. That is something that we're more than welcome to do. The second thing is that in terms of not having anything to discuss, we have ongoing discussions all the time with, you know, with North Cowichan. It's not like we're not ever talking to them. Staff talks to each other consistently about you know, issues in our communities. We're constantly talking about advocating together. Yeah, is an ongoing relationship. So this is just sort of something, a formal decision that needs to be made on a topic at this point that we're trying to make through. In terms of boundary restructure, we need to have more conversation, I believe, before we bring that to a meeting with North Cowichan. So that would be a potential next meeting if that was, you know, something that we're going to be moving forward with, which we we'll be discussing at some point in time, I would imagine, in the near future. It's just currently at this time, it's what we actually have to discuss, to decide upon around council tables to move forward jointly. And we got through the work with the highways through UBCM and through advocating together. So we did get through, since the last time, some pretty big things, and they're moving forward. So I think that's, you know, that's also speaks to how we work together in community. So I just wanted to put that out there. So, Councillor McKinley.
Well, you threw it out there, so the sign, yeah. If you wanted to, my personal opinion is that it should be where just north of Thrifty Foods, where the pumping station is there, because that is actually our boundary, but it's 100 yards or 100 meters on the other side of the railroad tracks. But that would line up with what is our boundary, and it would make it a lot better that, you know, okay, Beverly Street's coming here, you can turn to get into the city of Duncan. You're halfway through the city of Duncan if you put it at the high school parking lot or track.
And I just want to clarify that there is directional signage on the highway, because we had this discussion too with staff. There is direction signage that tells you to turn into Duncan. That is just Ministry of Highway signage on coming into town. It just doesn't we don't welcome visitors. So yeah, just to put that out there too. Councillor Duncan, go ahead.
Yeah, I like the location you've spoke about. I don't know that there's an actual sign that says like small in a big way, like there is other signs, you know, turn right, you can't go wrong, or turn into something, I can't remember what that was, turn into something good. We need, I think if we're gonna go with this school property, then we have to have something like that, another sign that says, you know, turn at Beverly there, rather than a regular highway sign, green and white, that says turn. So that would be the only concern I have, other than I don't like the location. I like what Councillor McKinley has said.
Okay, so we can sever this motion if council would like to put something else forward, that's fine. To do at this point, is that correct? Yeah, so I'm just putting that out there as well, if there's anything, and again, not that that has to happen in a meeting, that would be staff discussions first and see how that went. So if there is, the council would like to separate these into 1 and 2, I'm happy to do so. I see nodding around the table. Ms. McWilliam, is that okay just to do that? Okay, so, but if there's an amendment to it, I guess we just vote it down and then start again. Okay, so if there's an amendment to 6.21 that anyone would like to make, now would be your time. I saw Councillor Duncan's hand go up, but I'm not sure that he was wanting to make an amendment, but perhaps he was. So over to you if you'd like to speak on this.
What I'd like to speak on it is, I think we should actually sit down with North Cowichan in the room, around the same table, and figure out why they want it moved and explain our rationale to them. And then we can all vote on it together and reach some sort of consensus. So I don't really want to split this up. I just want to sit down with them and explain our rationale and see what we end up with at the meeting.
Okie doke, so then that would be changing number 1, that council, and number 2. So we'd have to vote down the motion that's on the floor and then start all over again. So if we want to do that. Oh, I just read it out. Nobody moved it. Oh, look at me jumping the gun. Okay, well then that's easy. Would someone like to move a motion then? Okay, Tom.
I'm prepared to move 6.21 and 2, because I feel that we should have a joint discussion about it at the joint meeting.
But 6.2 says that there are no proposed topics, so you'd have to change the motion. Otherwise, you would have to just say you'd like to propose that the motion would be something to the effect of that the joint, we would like the topic of the sign on the next meeting. That's what you would have to move.
Then I would move that council direct staff to advise North Cowichan that we would like to discuss the location of the sign at the joint meeting.
Excellent. Okay, is there a seconder to that? Hands up all around. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Excellent. Bring all your ideas. So, we will move on to 6.3, the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board appointments. That Councillor Capps and Councillor Duncan, as alternate, be appointed to the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board from January 1st to December 31st, 2026. I have a question about that, though. Wouldn't it be until the election, because it's an election year? Or do they just let you do it after? Okay, all right, just checking. So mover and a seconder for that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. It can be changed if it needs to be too, if it is different. And yes, Councillor Duncan.
Just on that point, I received an email from Port Alberni with some information that they want to bring up a motion at the Vero table around planning and future planning, so that we don't end up in the situation that we have where we're getting hit with some pretty large increases. So I will forward that motion, that email to staff and to council.
Excellent, thank you. So we'll move forward with fees and charges amendment bylaw. Ms. McWilliam, is there anything that you'd like to say about this? It's a bylaw to establish dog license fees for future years. That's everything? So Ms. McWilliams has nothing to add to that. So is there a mover and a seconder for this? Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any council members who wish to make a report this evening? Councillor Newington, Councillor Duncan, Councillor Bruce, we'll start with Councillor Newington tonight. No, we're gonna start with Councillor Bruce tonight. Age before beauty, that is not, I just repeated what you said out loud. That is not kind. Councillor Bruce, I'm sorry.
I haven't done much, but it was in September, and I haven't reported to you guys since then, but I attended the TWC opening as mayor, as Mayor Staples was there as well, of course. Were you there? And Councillor Newington. Tom, were you at that? Yeah. Anyway, I was just pleased that it finally, I think it finally had come to pass, and they are going through opening type developments, and of course are still short of funds. That's the new project on Norcross, and but it's beginning its journey. So I was very, very pleased with that, because my little living room group had a fair bit to do with bringing them in, and I'm just very pleased that that has happened. And also, I went to the awards night at Cowichan Golf Course for the Wall of Fame, and that was huge fun. That was very, very enjoyable evening, and I was very thankful to be there. So, thank you very much. That was all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I attended the Sports Wall of Fame. Enjoyed that. The next day was the poppy flag raising for the Poppy Weeks as we come up to Remembrance Day tomorrow. I attended the Vancouver Island Economic Alliance Summit. Thank you very much for letting me go. There was some of the things I went to were tourism, looking at tourism with the Canadian social media. There was what was called a rail yard market, where they had 4 containers that turned into small shops up in Campbell River, and I think that this would be a great idea for our train tracks. You know, that we could put 4 containers up there. These were on sort of a 3-year lease. After 3 years, you had to vacate, so it was sort of a startup for businesses. There was a presentation by Jody Dick, who used to work for Cowichan Tribes, around coming up with some sort of MLS system for selling properties. I think they're not quite finished with that one, figuring it out. The presentation, another presentation I went to dealt with translations in the AI field that we see, how that can be used a lot for translating documents. Ice-T gave a report on renewal and resilience. One of the quotes I got out of that was, "The future does not look like the past," which is very appropriate. Another thing that came out of there was regulation strangulation. So some developers feel that there's quite a bit of regulation slowing down development in the area. Another one was thinking of housing as an economic infrastructure. That's something similar to what we're already doing here. I really think that giving money all the time to developers, they end up building units that are out of the price range of a lot of the people. So in the past, when I lived in Scotland, I lived in council housing, and I think it's time for the government to actually start building housing just like they do in Europe and renting it out. Also, one of the speakers was Kaylee Wiseman with the Wiseman Projects, the Duncan Manor. She spoke about that process that they're going through. Day 3. There was, on day 3, we received a keynote presentation from a gentleman from Ireland. It was a hologram. So it looked like a large phone booth, and he was in there, and you could see his shadow, and he was in Ireland, and it's similar to Zoom, but you could see a lot of 3D in it, right? It was quite interesting. Then I went into a Truth and Reconciliation workshop, again, trying to find out information around UNDRIP and how things are going to work with us. There was a report on some of the indigenous projects up in Nanaimo, the old Tally Ho site. They recently received a land grant from, returning land from the federal, I guess it's the federal military base area. So they've got some plans for that. And then the River Rock Casino, the Nanaimo Casino, and the Elements Casino have all been purchased by the Sanemo tribe up in Nanaimo. And I guess that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Councillor Newington.
Yes, well, mine wasn't quite as exciting. Although last week I attended the Our Cowichan networking meeting, and it was held at the Shemanis Theatre in the dining room. We were very much welcomed by the staff. They're very lovely people there. But I have to say that I was incredibly impressed with the reports this week, which were on children, of course, which is always our theme. But it was also about prenatal and perinatal work in the community. And we are so fortunate in the Cowichan Valley to have all these organizations that put their paw up and say, I can help you. And there's a new one, well, it's been going for a little while now, but it hasn't been widely emphasized, and it's called the House of Honorable Mothers. And it's working with the Friendship Center here in town, and are supported by them. And it is open to women who have issues after they have babies. They may have problem accepting the baby. You know, there's just so many issues that all the mothers here in the area can vouch to how you have issues after you've had babies. And you can live there for as long as you need. And they've got medical and psychological and all this different kind of support. And the people that are running it are so incredibly kind and generous. And I give a big shout out to them. And I have to say, for those who know my mother or knew her, she would be very proud.
Thank you, Councillor Newington. So I too was with Councillor Duncan at VIA, the Vancouver Island Economic Association Forum, and it's an interesting mix of people who attend the forum. It's all from everyone from startup businesses to very successful CAOs of large corporations to industry and small businesses and tourism and chambers, and it's just a mash of people that come together for this. And one of the things that really, I think, stood out to me, we did some planning for Visions 2050, Visions 2050, just sort of what would the island look like? What are the things that we're focusing on now? And there was a number of tables set up that you could go. They started this process last year, and there was a number of tables that you could go to and sit at and just sort of be a part of a conversation. And it's also very mixed in age. There's like a lot of young people, young and sort of upcoming people, and then people, you know, all over the spectrum to much older people. And just to be sitting in diverse tables like that with all those different perspectives, one of the things that really stuck out for me, I went to the table on homelessness and housing, and I went to the table on policy development. And so what really stood out for me was just that, you know, when you're working in community for a long time and really connected and doing so many things over like decades, and then you think that the people that are coming up behind you, younger people, have like those sort of, they're growing up in an environment with those shared experiences of what you've already been through. And it's just simply not the case. And so I just found it really interesting because I was just hearing, you know, that there is such a huge need for knowledge transfer for people between generations, and people like starting out in the you know, whatever jobs that they're in or careers that they're coming into in the kind of their 30s, all the way into their 40s when people move into communities, that there has to be a better way for us to do that knowledge transfer, because there's just so much lost, and there's so much education that people just don't have, like, and it's just because they haven't either been in the community itself or because they've been, in different parts, grown up in different parts of the community where they're not experiencing those things. And so that really stood out to me, I think more so than it ever has, is just that knowledge transfer. And how do we do that better, particularly at a time when more and more people are, leaving the workforce? How are we building that in to, to everything that we do? We have a small staff, so we're lucky because I think a lot of that happens between people here, but that does not happen everywhere. And so how do we just build that in general more? And that, includes like me with my own kids, like having conversations with them about things I might not think of as they're moving into the workforce. Because we're all coming from very different, with very different realities of what has and has not happened, and because of our experiences. So I think that stood out for me. But ultimately, that we also all want the same thing. And that's the other thing, too, that's very politically diverse. So we ultimately want the same thing. We don't make enough room for people to ask questions that they're scared to ask that are really hard questions and also very unpopular questions because of people's, maybe not having the same knowledge or access to information or education that other people do. There's a lot of anonymous, you could like comment through a QR code, and there was just a lot of anonymous questions being asked that, that were, I would consider questions, some of them a bit surprising that people would be asking them, but it just really spoke, and it was like in so many different sessions that I saw this, and they didn't answer a lot of those questions, and they were hard questions to answer. They're not easy, simple answers, but I really noticed that time, just that people want to, but there's no sort of safe space to do that in a way that they're going to be heard. And doing it anonymously is the only way that people felt safe there to ask those questions. And some of them, people, I certainly know that I had all sorts of ideas in my head when I saw some of the questions, but then listening to just the whole overall conversation, just realizing that again, we need to have more space for that to happen in order for us to move forward together. So I noticed that they did a state of a economy, Vancouver Island economy, which every year they do it that I've ever been there. It always sounds the same every year. I feel like it always sounds shocking, and yet, there's all these stories of businesses that are thriving and doing well, and communities that are coming together, and we're facing challenges and uncertainties and all sorts of things, and everyone is feeling it. But the fact that they had tied in like an entire half day into us planning for our future together, I think is really important. And I think a lot more of these, particularly at this time, I think it's a good space for all these different places to ensure that they provide for people. So I noticed different things about that. And I also really love the AI thing, the guy coming in, the three-dimensional thing. And I also have to say that the future of AI, they presented it, every year they present it. Last year, I talked about city twinning when I came back. I'm still super excited about that, and I hope that we get to be able to do that one day here, because I think it's an excellent planning tool. But it's also, there's so much uncertainty and so much fear around what that is actually going to mean and how it's going to roll out and how it's going to impact people and how it's going to impact our socialization and people's opportunities and there was things that I heard talking to the people afterwards that actually made me really uncomfortable. That's not a future that I want, some of the things that are being presented. So we're going to have a lot of, I don't know, conversations that maybe we only thought were, things that happened in Star Trek when we were all growing up in a very short order of time. So the technology just from last year to this year has just changed exponentially. So those were my feedbacks. I also had a meeting with Minister Boyle, the housing minister, and again, just further advocating for the same issues, or the not issues, but the same solutions that we were advocating for at UBCM, but was able to have some more one-on-one time with her. And so that was good, and I look forward to next steps and continuing to meet with other people. And I leave for Halifax on Saturday to go speak at the federal conference. So I'm excited about that as well. Back to you, Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, I just forgot on that, the 2050, I attended, one of the group tables was in food security. And I spoke about our food charter, our really successful market, how that gives local farmers a place to bring their wares and sell them. So yeah, that was an eye opener because the other people at the table were, 3 of them were employees from Salt Spring with Country Grocer, I think they said. So, you know, they tried to say their market was better than ours, but I told them it just doesn't compare.
And I'm assuming we have no questions this evening for question period. Excellent. And a motion to go into close, that the meeting be closed to the public under the following sections of the community charter to discuss matters related to committee appointments, section 91A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality, employee relations, section 91C, labor relations or other employee relations, and negotiations with the province, section 92B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and a provincial government, or the federal government, or both, or between a provincial government, or the federal government, or both, and a third party. With that, we'll go into closed, and we'll take 5 minutes.